Senator Murray just delivered a reality check that should shake every American who cares about national security. She's confronting Defense Secretary Hegseth about firing 2,000 skilled workers, including welders desperately needed to build Navy ships, while forcing political loyalty tests on new hires. This isn't about bureaucracy. It's about whether America's military readiness comes second to partisan politics.
Murray and then Senator Graham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, you oversee one of the largest and most important organizations on planet Earth. More than anything, the Department of Defense needs stable, competent, and strategic leadership. And much as I had feared back in January, it is not what we are seeing under your leadership. In a matter of months, you have lost top aides and reportedly struggled to hire new ones. You have fired highly respected top military officials. You shared highly sensitive attack plans over Signal and apparently with people in your own personal circles, and you've not taken responsibility for those mistakes. All the while, the security challenges we face have grown larger, not smaller. And then in the face of these challenges, you've taken a series of actions that weaken our posture. For example, in my home state of Washington, which is home to many DoD installations critical to our Indo-Pacific strategy, you have pushed out almost 2,000 highly trained civilian employees, including at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. Mr. Secretary, you talk about returning the department to its mission of warfighting, but I am repeatedly hearing that your policy and personnel changes at the Pentagon are only undermining, not strengthening our military's preparedness to protect our country. You are deploying the American military to police the American people. You're sending the National Guard into California without the governor's request. Sending the Marines not after foreign threats, but after American protesters. And now President Trump is promising heavy force against peaceful protesters at his D.C. military parade. Those sorts of actions and that sort of rhetoric from a president of the United States should stop every one of us cold. Threatening to use our own troops on our own citizens at such scale is unprecedented, it is unconstitutional, and it is downright un-American. We should all be speaking out against this and demanding accountability. Now, Mr. Secretary, I have to say, for people who tout their commitment to transparency and efficiency, I've never seen an administration more bent on hiding basic facts from American people. Your department has been unresponsive to congressional inquiries and oversight requests, all the while you are working to muzzle the free press, denying journalists access to the Pentagon press corps. Now, before I turn to my questions, let me just note, it is now mid-June, and we only, just a few days ago, received some, but not all, important portions of your budget request. It should not have taken this long to get this request, and we do still need to see the justifications in order for this committee to do its work. We're missing those. Not having a full budget at this juncture is really unacceptable. So I am deeply concerned. So let me turn to my questions, and this is important. This administration has put the civilian workforce under attack from day one, encouraging resignations, firing probationary employees, instituting hiring freeze, requiring OPM to approve any new hire one by one, and now, new last week, requiring prospective employees to explain how they would, quote, help support the President's executive orders and policy priorities. We have spoken with military installations across our country. Almost all of them have been forced to fire skilled civilian employees who are badly needed. And all of them also have hundreds, and in some cases thousands, of new hires ready to bring on board, but now have to individually be reviewed by OPM, apparently to ensure that they support the President's priorities. Secretary Hegseth, I want to know, and keep your answers short, I have limited time, will you be firing more shipbuilders, yes or no?
Senator, we haven't fired shipbuilders. We've offered, through a right-sizing of our civilian
positions, which
So
everyone in this committee would acknowledge that the Defense Department has had a bloated
Mr. Secretary,
bureaucracy for a long
so
time,
you
have
will
given a
not be-
voluntary process by which some people
we
can
all
choose
know
to
the
take a
process.
DRP.
I'm just asking you
So
a
it's not a
question.
firing of shipbuilders.
so
That's a
you're-
totally disingenuous characterization of what our
Let me
department is
just
doing.
ask
We
you,
are focusing on shipbuilding,
Mr.
ma'am.
Secretary, do we need more or fewer shipbuilders?
We are investing historically in our shipbuilding defense industrial base and workforce and ships in this budget, more than anything the previous administration ever
Okay.
did.
So, well, you managed to fire highly skilled workers, including my home state of Washington, for no reason. So let me just say, the Navy needs welders, not people who can recite a president's executive orders. If the Navy wants to hire a qualified candidate for the role, but that candidate happened to vote for or donate to Democrats, would they be hired?
Senator, there's never been a litmus test for hiring welders.
Well,
If you can weld, you can work at the Defense Department.
That is what they are being asked. And Mr. Secretary, I just have to say, we need to drop the politics in our military. We need to hire the best people. We do not need to force them out. That is simply the case at this point. I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What Senator Murray exposed in that exchange was more than a personnel dispute. It was a snapshot of how America's defense readiness gets sacrificed on the altar of political loyalty. She didn't grandstand or launch into partisan rhetoric. Instead, she methodically documented a pattern that should alarm anyone who understands what it takes to maintain the world's most powerful. Start with the numbers. Murray cited 2,000 highly skilled civilian employees pushed out of Washington state defense installations alone, including critical workers at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. These aren't bureaucrats shuffling papers. These are welders, engineers, and technicians who build and maintain the Navy ships that project American power across the Pacific. When Murray asked whether we need more or fewer shipbuilders, Hegseth's evasive response revealed he couldn't give a straight answer to a simple question about military capability, because the real answer would expose the contradiction at the heart of his approach. The mechanism Murray described is worth understanding because it shows how political purges get disguised as efficiency measures. Under the new hiring system, the Office of Personnel Management must individually approve every new defense worker, requiring each candidate to explain how they'll support the president's priorities. Think about what that means in practice. A qualified welder who happens to have voted for the wrong candidate or donated to the wrong party now faces a political litmus test to repair Navy submarines. That's not merit-based hiring. That's partisan gatekeeping applied to national security. Murray's pointed question about Democratic voters being hired cut to the constitutional core. When government employment depends on political alignment rather than professional competence, you're not building a stronger military. You're building a weaker one staffed by people chosen for their loyalty rather than their skills. Hegseth claimed there's no litmus test for welders, but the structure Murray outlined suggests if every hire requires political vetting, then political considerations inevitably factor into personnel decisions. The broader context makes this even more troubling. Murray noted that defense installations across the country report being forced to fire skilled employees while having hundreds or thousands of qualified candidates ready to hire, all frozen in the political review process. Meanwhile, security challenges from China to Russia continue growing. The disconnect between rhetoric about military readiness and actual policies that undermine that readiness creates a dangerous gap between perception and reality. Murray also touched on something equally significant: the unprecedented use of military force against American civilians. Deploying the National Guard without governor's request to police protesters represents a fundamental shift in how military power relates to civilian authority. When Murray called this unconstitutional and un-American, she was pointing to norms that have protected democratic governance for centuries. Those norms exist because once you normalize using military force for political purposes, the line between legitimate security and authoritarian control starts to blur. The secrecy Murray highlighted compounds these problems. When the Defense Department becomes unresponsive to congressional oversight, denies journalists access, and delays budget justifications, accountability disappears. Congress can't perform its constitutional role if it lacks basic information about how taxpayer money is being spent and whether defense policies actually enhance security. Without transparency, the public has no way to judge whether their military is being strengthened or weakened by political interference. What Murray documented is a cascading institutional failure. Political hiring criteria reduce military effectiveness. Suppression of oversight prevents course corrections. Misuse of military force against civilians erodes democratic norms. Each element reinforces the others, creating a system where political considerations consistently override professional judgment and constitutional limits. The human cost extends beyond statistics. Career defense workers who see qualified colleagues fired for political reasons will self-censor or leave. Military contractors who depend on stable, skilled workforces face disruption. Allied nations watching America struggle to maintain basic institutional competence will question our reliability as a security partner. And ultimately, service members whose lives depend on well-maintained equipment and sound strategic planning bear the consequences of putting politics before professionalism. Murray's exchange matters because it connected abstract governance principles to concrete security outcomes. When she said the Navy needs welders, not loyalty tests, she was articulating a choice every democracy must make. Do you want institutions that work, or institutions that serve political purposes? The answer shapes not just military effectiveness, but whether democratic norms can survive the pressure of partisan control.